The lights of the Galactic Council station sparkled like distant stars through the massive viewing windows. Kim Tai-yang stood at his post near the eastern entrance of the Grand Hall, watching hundreds of alien dignitaries move through the space like colorful fish in an aquarium. His hand rested near his sidearm, though he doubted he would need it. This was supposed to be a peaceful gathering. He had been working security for Earth's diplomatic missions for 3 years now. Before that, he spent 8 years in Special Forces. The transition from soldier to bodyguard had been easier than he expected. The skills were similar. Stay alert, watch for threats, protect the people you were assigned to protect. Tonight's reception celebrated the opening of new trade routes between Earth and the Velrosian Empire. The Velrosians were an impressive species. They stood nearly 7 feet tall with crystalline skin that shifted colors based on their emotions. Their technology was centuries ahead of humanity's. Their ships could cross the galaxy in weeks while human vessels took months. Tai-yang glanced across the hall at the Velrosian delegation. They wore elaborate armor that seemed to be made of living metal. Each piece moved and adjusted to its wearer like a second skin. At the center of their group stood a young Velrosian female. She was smaller than the others, her crystalline skin glowing with soft purple and blue hues. Princess Aaron, if he remembered the briefing correctly. Third in line to the Velrosian throne. The princess seemed bored. She kept looking away from the ambassadors and dignitaries who surrounded her. Her large eyes, which glowed faintly in the dim light, scanned the room with obvious curiosity. Tai-yang had seen that look before on his little sister's face when she was forced to attend formal events back home. An hour into the reception, Tai-yang noticed the princess had moved away from her guards. She was walking toward the human delegation area, her eyes fixed on Ambassador Park Daeho and his staff. The Velrosian guards hadn't noticed yet. They were too busy scanning for external threats. Tai-yang felt a small warning ping in his mind. Something felt wrong. He couldn't explain it. After years in combat zones, he had learned to trust these feelings. His eyes swept the room more carefully now, looking for anything out of place. There, near the refreshment area, a Krethian delegate was moving with purpose through the crowd. Krethians were reptilian creatures known for their merchant skills. This one wore the typical flowing robes of his species, but something about his movement pattern was wrong. Too focused. Too direct. The Krethian's path would intersect with Princess Aaron's in about 10 seconds. Tai-yang moved before he could think about it. His training took over. He walked quickly but not running, not wanting to cause panic. The princess had stopped just 15 feet away from him, staring at a display of Earth artifacts with fascination. The Krethian's hand emerged from his robes holding a small device. Tai-yang recognized it instantly. A plasma disruptor, military grade. The kind of weapon that could punch through Velrosian armor like paper. Everything slowed down in that moment. Tai-yang saw the weapon rising. He saw the princess turning toward the Krethian, her expression shifting from curiosity to confusion. He saw the Velrosian guards finally noticing, but they were too far away. They would never reach her in time. Tai-yang ran. 3 long strides brought him between the princess and the assassin, just as the weapon fired. The world exploded in white light and burning pain. The plasma bolt hit him square in the chest, and it felt like someone had driven a red-hot spear through his body. The force of the impact threw him backward into the princess, and they both went down in a tangle of limbs. He couldn't breathe. His chest felt like it was on fire. But even as he fell, Tai-yang's hand found his sidearm. He drew and fired 3 shots before he hit the ground. All 3 hit the Krethian assassin in the chest. The assassin dropped his weapon and collapsed. Tai-yang landed on his back with the princess beneath him, cushioned from the impact. He could hear shouting. Alarms were blaring. Feet were running toward them from all directions. But all he could focus on was the burning pain in his chest and the difficulty of drawing breath. He rolled off the princess, trying not to crush her with his weight. His vision was starting to blur. Blood was spreading across the front of his uniform in a dark stain. He had taken plasma shots before in training, but those were low-powered. This was the real thing. This was probably fatal. The princess scrambled to her knees beside him. Her skin had turned bright red, the Velrosian color for fear and distress. She was saying something in her own language, but the translation device in his ear had stopped working. Her hands pressed against his chest, and he could feel the coolness of her crystalline skin, even through the burning pain. Human medics arrived first, followed closely by Velrosian guards. Someone was pulling the princess away from him, but she was fighting them, screaming words he couldn't understand. Ambassador Park's face appeared above him, looking pale and shocked. "Stay with us, Taiyang," the ambassador said. "Help is here. You're going to be okay." But Taiyang knew better. He had seen enough combat wounds to recognize a fatal one. The plasma had burned through his chest cavity. He could feel his strength draining away with each struggled breath. His vision was darkening at the edges. The last thing he saw before losing consciousness was the princess breaking free from her guards and dropping to her knees beside him again. Her hands found his face, and she was crying. He didn't know Velrosians could cry. Crystalline tears rolled down her face and fell onto his cheeks, cold against his skin. She said something in broken English, words she must have learned specially. "Not die. Please not die." Taiyang wanted to tell her he had done his job, that she was safe, that it was worth it. But the darkness was pulling him down, and he couldn't find the words. His last conscious thought was a simple one. He had protected someone. In the end, that was all that mattered. The world went black, and Kim Taeyang died on the floor of the Galactic Council station with a princess he had never spoken to holding his face and begging him to live. What he didn't know was that this was not the end. It was only the beginning. Consciousness returned slowly, like swimming up from the bottom of a deep ocean. Taeyang became aware of sensations one at a time: soft fabric against his skin, a gentle humming sound in the air, the smell of something sweet and unfamiliar, and strangest of all, no pain. He opened his eyes and immediately knew he was not in a human medical facility. The ceiling above him was made of some kind of crystal that glowed with soft blue light. The walls seemed to pulse gently, as if they were breathing. Everything was too clean, too perfect, too alien. Panic tried to rise in his chest, but his body felt too relaxed to respond properly. He managed to lift his head and look down at himself. He was lying on a bed that seemed to be made of solidified light. His chest was bare, and where the plasma blast had torn through him, there was now only smooth skin marked with a faint silver scar. "You're awake." The voice came from his left. Taeyang turned his head to see Ambassador Park Dae-ho sitting in a chair that had definitely not been there a moment ago. The ambassador looked tired, with dark circles under his eyes and several days of stubble on his face. "How long?" Taeyang's voice came out rough and dry. 3 weeks, Park said. He stood and walked to the bed, studying Taeyang with an expression that mixed relief with something else. "Something complicated. You've been unconscious for 3 weeks. We thought we'd lost you several times. 3 weeks. Taeyang tried to process that. "I should be dead." "You were," Park said bluntly. "Your heart stopped on the station floor. Human medics couldn't save you. The Velrosian medical team said your injuries were beyond their standard procedures." He paused, but then Empress Valera herself gave an order. She commanded her personal physicians to use experimental treatments on you, treatments that are usually reserved only for the royal family. Taeyang stared at the ambassador. The Empress, the ruler of an empire that spanned dozens of star systems, had personally intervened to save a human security contractor. "Why?" he asked. Park smiled slightly. "Because you saved her daughter's life. Because you threw yourself in front of a weapon designed to kill Velrosians without any thought for your own survival." He leaned forward. "Taeyang, what you did has caused quite a situation. The Empress was moved by your actions. She sees it as the highest form of honor. In Velrosian culture, you've become something called Shala Kor. It means sacred guardian." "I was just doing my job," Taeyang said. "No," Park corrected. "Your job was to guard the human delegation. The princess was not your responsibility. You had no obligation to protect her. That's what makes it significant to them. You chose to save her life at the cost of your own." Before Taeyang could respond, the door to the medical chamber opened. Not a normal door. The wall simply dissolved and reformed. A Velrosian female entered, and Taeyang knew immediately who she was. She carried herself with unmistakable authority. Her crystalline skin was a deep royal purple, and she wore armor that seemed to be made of captured starlight. Empress Valera was even more imposing in person than in the briefing videos. Ambassador Park immediately stood and bowed. Taeyang tried to sit up, but his body still felt weak. The Empress made a gesture with one hand, and the bed adjusted itself, lifting him into a sitting position. "Kim Taeyang," the Empress said in perfect English. Her voice was like music played on crystal bells. "I am pleased to see you awake." My physicians were uncertain if you would survive the procedures. Thank you for saving my life, Your Majesty, Taiyang said. He wasn't sure of the proper protocol, but respect seemed like a safe choice. The Empress moved closer, studying him with eyes that glowed like violet suns. You saved my daughter's life. In my culture, this creates a debt that cannot be measured in wealth or technology. You gave everything to protect her. This is not common even among my own people. I couldn't let her die, Taeyang said simply. No, the Empress agreed. You could not. This is why I wish to make a request. She glanced at Ambassador Park. I have spoken with your government and your ambassador. I wish for you to remain here on my homeworld as Arin's personal guardian. Taeyang blinked. I'm not qualified to guard a princess. I'm just a contractor. You are qualified because you have already proven you will die for her if necessary, the Empress said. Your human instinct, what you call courage, is something my people have forgotten how to value. We rely on our technology and our armor to keep us safe, but you relied on nothing except your willingness to sacrifice yourself. This is true strength. The door dissolved again and Princess Arin entered the chamber. She looked different than Taeyang remembered from the brief moment before the attack. She was smaller than her mother, her skin shifting between blue and purple hues. She carried a tray with what appeared to be food. When she saw that Taeyang was awake, her skin flashed bright yellow, which the translation device in his newly repaired ear identified as joy. She rushed forward, nearly dropping the tray. You're awake, she said in careful English. I've been visiting every day. I brought you food from Earth. The ambassador told me what humans eat. She set the tray down on a table that appeared from nowhere. I studied very hard to learn your language properly. Taeyang looked at the food. It was clearly alien attempts at human dishes, something that might have been meant to be rice, a fruit that was probably supposed to be an apple but was bright blue. But the effort behind it touched something in his chest. Thank you, Princess, he said. Just Arin, she corrected. You saved my life. You don't have to use titles with me. Her skin flickered through several colors rapidly, which seemed to indicate embarrassment or uncertainty. Will you stay? Will you be my guardian? I know it's a strange request, but I want to learn about humans. About your world, and I feel safe with you. Taeyang looked at the three of them. An empress, a princess, an ambassador, all waiting for his answer. He thought about Earth, about his apartment he barely lived in, about a job that had become routine. Then he thought about the moment when he had thrown himself in front of that plasma blast. He hadn't thought about it. He had just acted. Maybe that was who he really was. I'll stay, he said. The Empress's skin brightened, shifting to a warm gold color that indicated satisfaction. Good, then we have much to prepare. You will need to learn our ways, our language, our customs. My daughter will help you, as will others. But first you must recover fully. She turned to leave, then paused at the door. Kim Taeyang, you have changed something in my empire by your actions. The other species in the galaxy see humans as primitive and weak. But I see something different now. I see potential. I see a partnership that could benefit both our peoples. After the Empress left, Ambassador Park sat down again with a heavy sigh. You've just agreed to something that's going to change your life completely. Are you sure about this? Taeyang looked at Princess Arin, who was watching him with those glowing eyes full of hope and curiosity. He touched the silver scar on his chest. I'm sure, he said. And somewhere in his gut, beneath the uncertainty and the strangeness of everything, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Purpose. The Crystal Palace was like something from a dream, or a nightmare depending on the day. Taeyang had been living there for 2 weeks now, and he still got lost regularly. The corridors shifted and changed based on some system he couldn't understand. Doors appeared and disappeared. Gravity was optional in certain sections, and everyone except him seemed to think this was perfectly normal. Li Hana found him wandering the south wing for the 3rd time that morning. She was the human cultural liaison, a practical woman in her 30s who had been working with the Velrosian government for 5 years. She took one look at his frustrated expression and laughed. Lost again? She asked in Korean, which felt like a relief after weeks of speaking English or trying to learn Velrosian. This place doesn't make sense, Taeyang complained. I swear this hallway didn't exist yesterday. It probably didn't, Hana said. The palace is a living structure. It grows and adapts based on the needs of its inhabitants. You'll get used to it eventually. She handed him a small device. Here, this is a palace navigator. It'll keep you from walking into the Empress's private chambers again. Taeyang winced at the memory. That had been embarrassing. The Empress had been gracious about it, but her guards had not been amused. Thanks, he said, clipping the device to his belt. I'm supposed to meet Princess Erin for breakfast, but I can't find the Eastern Garden. Follow me, Hana said. As they walked, she filled him in on palace gossip. You're causing quite a stir, you know. Half the royal guard thinks you're a hero. The other half thinks you're an insult to their profession. High Commander Rethus is in the second group. I've noticed, Taeyang said dryly. Commander Rethus had made his opinions very clear during Taeyang's first training session with the guard. The Velrosian had called him weak, primitive, and unworthy of standing anywhere near the royal family. Then he had challenged Taeyang to a sparring match and been genuinely shocked when Taeyang held his own. Velrosians were stronger and faster than humans, and their armor gave them even more advantages. But Taeyang had learned a long time ago that strength wasn't everything. Speed and technique could overcome a lot, and humans were unpredictable in ways that Velrosians, with their rigid training and protocols, were not. They reached the Eastern Garden, which was a massive space filled with plants from dozens of worlds. Some of the flowers sang. Some of the trees floated a few inches off the ground. Princess Erin was waiting at a table made of crystallized water, surrounded by plates of food from various cultures. Taeyang, she called out, her skin brightening to yellow. She had been practicing his name. In the first few days, she had struggled with the pronunciation. Now she said it almost perfectly. I got human food this time. Real human food. Hana helped me order it from the Earth Embassy. Taeyang sat down and examined the spread. Actual rice. Kimchi, that smelled right. Grilled meat that looked like bulgogi. His mouth watered. The palace food synthesizers could create anything, but they never got Earth food quite right. This looks amazing, he said. Thank you. Erin's skin rippled with pleased purple patterns. I've been studying Earth culture. Did you know humans have over 7,000 different languages? And you come from a place called Korea, which has a very old history, 5,000 years. I didn't realize you were so interested in Earth, Taeyang said as he started eating. The food was perfect. I've been interested for years, Erin admitted. Humans are fascinating. You're so fragile compared to most species, but you explore anyway. You have shorter lives, but you accomplish so much. And your art, your music, your stories, they're so full of emotion. Her skin shifted to a softer blue. My mother says I'm too curious about other species. But I think curiosity is good. Over the next hour, they talked about everything. Erin asked questions about Earth, about human customs, about Taeyang's life before he became her guardian. He answered as best he could, though some questions surprised him. Why did you become a soldier? She asked at one point. Taeyang thought about it. I wanted to protect people. My father was a firefighter. He spent his life running into burning buildings to save others. I guess I inherited that from him. Is that why you saved me? Because you inherited protection? No, Taeyang said. I saved you because it was the right thing to do. I saw someone in danger and I had the ability to help. It wasn't complicated. Erin stared at him for a long moment. My guards would have let me die if it meant following protocol. They would have waited for authorization. Humans don't do that, do they? You just act. Sometimes that's our strength, Taeyang said. Sometimes it's our weakness. We don't always think things through. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Prince Volthan, Erin's older brother. He was massive even for a Velrosian, with skin that shifted between dark purple and red. His armor was more elaborate than the guards, marked with symbols of military achievement. Sister, he said, barely glancing at Taeyang. Mother wants to see you. Can't it wait? Erin asked. I'm talking with Taeyang. The Empress doesn't wait, Volthan said. His eyes finally focused on Taeyang, and there was no warmth in them. Your human pet can entertain himself. Taeyang felt his jaw tighten, but he kept his expression neutral. Getting into an argument with a prince was not a good idea. Erin's skin flushed angry red. Don't call him that. Taeyang saved my life. He's my guardian and my friend. He's a primitive being who got lucky, Volthan said. One act of instinct doesn't make him worthy of our family. That's enough, Erin said, standing up. Her small size didn't make her any less commanding in that moment. You don't get to decide who is worthy. Taeyang proved his worth with his blood. What have you proven lately, brother? The tension in the garden spiked. Taeyang stood slowly, ready to intervene if necessary, though he had no idea what he would do if two Velrosians started fighting. Volthan stared at his sister for a long moment, then shook his head. You're spending too much time with humans. You're starting to think like them, emotional, irrational. He turned and walked away without another word. Erin sat back down heavily, her skin cycling through several colors rapidly. I'm sorry about him. He's always been like this. He thinks anything that isn't Velrosian is inferior. It's okay, Taiyang said, though it wasn't really. I've dealt with people like him before. Have you? Erin asked. Because Volthan isn't just any person. He's second in line to the throne and he commands a fleet. If he decides he doesn't like you, he can make your life very difficult. Taeyang thought about his years in special forces, about commanding officers who didn't trust him, about politicians who saw soldiers as expendable tools. I've survived worse than disapproval. Erin smiled slightly. I believe you. Come on, let's go to the archive. I want to show you something. The Human Culture Archive was located in the palace's information wing. It was a massive space filled with data crystals, each one containing information about Earth. Erin led Taeyang to a private viewing room and activated a display. Images of Earth appeared in the air, cities, oceans, mountains, people going about their daily lives. Music played softly in the background. I've been collecting information about your world since I was young, Erin explained. I find humans beautiful in a way I can't explain. You're so determined, so creative, so alive. She looked at him. That's why it meant so much that you saved me. Not just because you stopped me from dying, but because it proved what I always believed, that humans have something special. Taeyang didn't know what to say to that. He was just one person, one human among billions, but looking at Erin's hopeful expression, he realized that to her he represented his entire species. We're not perfect, he said finally. Humans make mistakes. We fight among ourselves. We destroy things. But you also build, Erin said, and you protect. And you care about each other even when it costs you everything. Her skin shifted to a soft gold color. I'm glad you're here, Taeyang. I'm glad I get to know you. That evening, Taeyang returned to his quarters to find a message waiting. It was from Empress Valera, requesting his presence in the war room the next morning. The message was brief, but it included one line that made his stomach tighten. We need to discuss the future, both yours and the Empire's. Taeyang sat on his bed, which was far more comfortable than anything he had ever owned on Earth, and wondered what he had gotten himself into. He had agreed to be a guardian. But looking at that message, he suspected the Empress had much bigger plans for him. Outside his window, 3 moons rose over the Crystal City, and Taeyang realized he was further from home than he had ever imagined possible, not just in distance but in every way that mattered, and somehow that felt right. 3 months had passed since Taeyang woke up in the Imperial Medical Wing. 3 months of learning Velrosian customs, studying alien technology, and spending almost every day with Princess Erin. The initial strangeness had faded into something comfortable, something that felt almost like normal. Cho Minho arrived on a Tuesday morning with 3 other human security contractors. Taeyang met them at the palace landing platform, grateful to see familiar faces. Minho was an old friend from his military days, a solid fighter with a quick mind and an even quicker smile. Look at you, Minho said, gripping Taeyang's hand firmly. Living in a palace, guarding a princess. I always knew you'd end up somewhere weird. It's good to see you, Taeyang said, and meant it. The other humans were professional but distant. Minho felt like a piece of home. The expanded human presence was part of a new arrangement between Earth and the Velrosian Empire. More trade, more cultural exchange, more cooperation. The Empress had been clear that Taeyang's actions had opened doors that had been closed for years. Later that day, Taeyang introduced Minho to Princess Erin during their usual afternoon session in the training hall. Erin had insisted on learning human combat techniques, much to Commander Rethus's disapproval. She was surprisingly good at it, though her Velrosian strength made some techniques unnecessary. Your Highness, Minho said with a respectful bow. I've heard a lot about you. And I've heard that you're Taeyang's friend, Erin said, her skin brightening to pleased yellow. Anyone who is his friend is welcome here. Will you train with us? They spent the next hour sparring and practicing. Erin laughed more than Taeyang had ever heard her laugh, especially when Minho told embarrassing stories about Taeyang's early days in Special Forces. For a few hours it felt less like guarding a princess and more like spending time with friends. That evening, Lady Seraph, Aaron's aunt, requested to meet with Taeyang privately. Lady Seraph was the Empress's younger sister and served as a political advisor. She was known for her sharp mind and sharper tongue. They met in one of the palace's observation rooms overlooking the capital city as it glowed in the twilight. Lady Seraph was studying a holographic display when Taeyang entered, her skin a neutral silver color. "Kim Taeyang," she said without looking at him. "Tell me honestly, why are you really here?" The question caught him off guard. "I'm here to protect Princess Aaron." "No," Lady Seraph said, finally turning to face him. "That's what my sister wants you to believe. But I need to know your real motivation. Are you a spy for your government? Are you seeking wealth? Power? Influence?" Taeyang met her glowing eyes directly. "I'm here because a young woman was about to die and I could stop it. Everything else came after that choice. I don't want anything except to do my job." Lady Seraph studied him for a long moment. Then her skin shifted to a warm amber color that indicated approval. "Good. Because Aaron has become attached to you and I need to know you won't hurt her. My niece is more important than you can understand. She's not just third in line to the throne. She's the Empire's future in ways that have nothing to do with succession." "I don't understand," Taeyang said. "You will," Lady Seraph replied. "Soon enough. For now, know this. If you betray her trust, if you use her affection for personal gain, I will personally ensure you regret it." "Am I clear?" "Crystal clear," Taeyang said. Lady Seraph smiled slightly. "I think I'm beginning to understand why my sister values humans. You're refreshingly direct." She turned back to the window. "There's a diplomatic tour scheduled for next week. Aaron will visit 3 colony worlds. You'll accompany her as her guardian. It will be a good test of whether you're truly ready for this role." The diplomatic tour was Taeyang's first real glimpse of the Velrosian Empire's scope. 3 worlds, each different from the others. The first was a water world where cities floated on massive platforms. The second was a mining colony carved into an asteroid field. The third was an agricultural world with fields that stretched to the horizon. At each stop, Princess Aaron met with local leaders, listened to concerns, and offered solutions. Taeyang watched her work and realized she was far more capable than her youth suggested. She was smart, diplomatic, and genuinely cared about her people. But it was on the third world, the agricultural colony, that everything changed. They were touring a massive farming complex when alarms started blaring. The ground shook violently. Taeyang immediately moved to Aaron's side as Velrosian guards formed a protective circle around her. "What's happening?" Aaron demanded. One of the local officials, a tall Velrosian with green-tinted skin, rushed over. "Seismic event, Your Highness." "A major one. The colony's foundation stabilizers are failing." "How many people are in danger?" Aaron asked. "The mining sector. About 2,000 workers are trapped underground." Aaron didn't hesitate. "We need to help them. Now." Commander Rethis, who had accompanied them on the tour, stepped forward. "Your Highness, we should evacuate you to safety first. The local emergency teams can handle the rescue." "No," Aaron said firmly. "We're not leaving while people are dying." "Taeyang, can humans work in unstable environments?" Taeyang understood immediately what she was asking. "We're more adaptable than Velrosians in some ways. Lighter, more flexible. We might be able to reach places your people can't." "Then let's go," Aaron said. The next 6 hours were chaos. The mining sector's tunnels had collapsed in multiple places, trapping workers in pockets of air that wouldn't last long. Velrosian rescue teams were strong but struggled with the unstable rubble. Every time they tried to clear a path, more debris would fall. Taeyang and Minho, along with the other human contractors, worked alongside the Velrosians. But they used different techniques. Instead of trying to force their way through, they looked for gaps, small openings, weak points where they could slip through. They were smaller, lighter, and could navigate spaces that would trap a Velrosian. Taeyang found himself crawling through a collapsed tunnel barely wide enough for his shoulders, following the sound of voices. His comm unit crackled with warnings about instability, but he ignored them. There were people ahead who needed help. He found them in a pocket cave created by fallen support beams. 5 Velrosian workers, all injured, huddled together in the darkness. Their skin was flickering weakly, a sign of severe stress. "I'm here to help," Taeyang said. "Can you move?" The workers stared at him in shock. A human in their minds was a fragile creature. Yet here he was in a place their own rescue teams couldn't reach. "We can move," one of them said. "But the tunnel? I know the way," Taeyang said. "Follow me. Stay close." Getting 5 injured Velrosians through a collapsed tunnel was not easy. It took time, patience, and several moments where Taeyang thought the whole thing would come down on their heads. But they made it. When they emerged into the main rescue area, the Velrosian teams cheered. Erin was there, her royal armor covered in dust, working alongside the rescue teams despite Rethus's protests. When she saw Taeyang emerge with the workers, her skin flashed brilliant gold. "You did it," she said. "We all did," Taeyang replied, looking at the humans and Velrosians working together around them. By the time the rescue operation ended, all 2,000 workers had been saved. Taeyang had personally pulled out 23 people from collapsed sections. Minho had saved 18. The other human contractors had similar numbers. Together, they had done what the Velrosians couldn't do alone. That night, as they flew back to the capital world, Empress Valira contacted them directly. Her holographic image appeared in the shuttle's main cabin. "Princess Erin Kim Taeyang," she said. "I have received reports about what happened today. Taeyang, you risked your life again. Not for my daughter this time, but for people you had never met." "Why? Because they needed help," Taeyang said simply. "Because I could reach them when others couldn't." The Empress was quiet for a moment. "This is why I asked you to stay. This is what my people have forgotten. The willingness to risk everything for others, even strangers. You have reminded us of something important today." After the Empress disconnected, Erin moved to sit beside Taeyang. Her skin was a soft purple, the color of deep thought. "Taeyang," she said quietly, "today I realized something. You didn't save me because I'm a princess. You would have done the same thing for anyone. You're just good, in a way that has nothing to do with training or duty." Taeyang felt uncomfortable with the praise. "I'm not special. Any decent person would have done the same." "No," Erin said. "They wouldn't have. That's what makes you special. That's what makes humans special." She hesitated. "I'm glad you're here. I'm glad I get to learn from you." Taeyang looked out the shuttle window at the stars streaming past and thought about how strange his life had become. 6 months ago, he was a simple security contractor living in a small apartment on Earth. Now he was traveling between worlds, saving lives and somehow becoming friends with an alien princess. Life was unpredictable, but looking at Erin's hopeful expression, at Minho sleeping in the seat across from them after a hard day's work, at the vast empire of stars outside, Taeyang decided that unpredictability wasn't always a bad thing. Sometimes it led you exactly where you needed to be. The war room of the Crystal Palace was unlike any military facility Taeyang had ever seen on Earth. Maps of the entire galaxy floated in the air as holograms, each star system marked with complex data. Dozens of Velrosian officers stood around the main display table, their armor reflecting the light from countless screens. Taeyang felt out of place in his simple human uniform. Beside him, Minho looked equally uncomfortable. They had been summoned by Empress Valira without explanation, along with Ambassador Park and a new arrival from Earth, a military strategist named Yoon Ji-hyun. Ji-hyun was a sharp woman in her 40s with gray-streaked hair and calculating eyes. She had spent 20 years in Earth's military intelligence before becoming an advisor to the diplomatic corps. When she shook Taeyang's hand, her grip was firm and her expression was serious. "I've read your file," she said quietly. "Interesting career path. Security contractor to Royal Guardian in one dramatic gesture." "It wasn't planned," Taeyang replied. "The best things never are," Ji-hyun said. Empress Valira entered the room, and every Velrosian immediately stood straighter. Princess Erin followed her mother, along with Prince Voltan and Lady Seraph. The Empress's skin was deep purple, almost black, which Taeyang had learned indicated serious concern. "Thank you all for coming," the Empress said. Her voice carried easily through the large room. "I have gathered you here because our empire faces a threat that technology alone cannot defeat." She gestured, and the holographic display changed. A new region of space appeared, marked in red. Hundreds of ships moved through it in organized formations. "The Torvin Collective," the Empress continued. "They are a militant species that has been expanding aggressively for decades. Until now, we have had treaties that kept them in check. Those treaties have been broken. Admiral Kresh's image appeared in the display. He was Torvin, a species that looked like they were made of living stone. His face was angular and hard, his eyes glowing with orange light. Kresh has declared that Velrosian space is weak and ripe for conquest, the Empress said. He has already attacked 3 of our border colonies, and he possesses something that makes him particularly dangerous. The display shifted again, showing a molecular structure that meant nothing to Taiyang, but made every Velrosian in the room flinch. A biological weapon, Lady Seraph explained. It targets Velrosian physiology specifically. Exposure causes rapid crystallization of our internal systems, death within minutes. And it's completely harmless to every other known species, including humans. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed that information. Taeyang felt cold understanding wash over him. The Torvins had found a way to kill Velrosians while leaving their territory and resources intact. This is why we need Earth's help, the Empress said, looking directly at Ambassador Park. Your species is unaffected by this weapon, and more importantly, you fight in ways we do not understand. Ways that are effective. Ambassador Park stepped forward. Your Majesty, Earth's government is willing to offer military support, but we're still a relatively young spacefaring species. Our technology is generations behind yours. What can we really provide? Adaptability, said Prince Voltan, speaking for the first time. Taeyang was surprised to hear him acknowledge human strengths. Velrosian military doctrine is rigid. We have protocols for every situation, but humans improvise. They take risks. They find solutions that would never occur to us. He's right, Jihyun said. I've studied both Velrosian and Torvin military tactics. You're both highly advanced, but you fight like computer programs. Very sophisticated programs, but predictable. Humans are messy. We break rules. That makes us dangerous in ways that have nothing to do with technology. Empress Valira nodded. This is why I'm making an unusual request. Ambassador Park, I would like Earth to send military advisors and support forces, not to fight our war for us, but to teach us how to think differently. She looked at Taeyang, and I am promoting Kim Taeyang to serve as liaison between our forces. He has proven he understands both our people and his own. I'm not qualified for that, Taeyang protested. I was a soldier, not a strategist. You are qualified because you saved my daughter twice now, the Empress said. Once with your body on the station. Once with your mind at the colony. You see problems differently than we do. That is exactly what we need. Over the next week, Taeyang found himself thrust into a role he had never wanted. Working with Jihyun and a team of human military advisors, he began training Velrosian soldiers in what Jihyun called human-style warfare. It wasn't about better weapons or stronger armor. It was about thinking flexibly, about breaking rules when necessary, about accepting chaos as a tool rather than something to eliminate. The Velrosian soldiers struggled with it. They had been trained for centuries to follow strict protocols. Asking them to improvise felt wrong to them, almost immoral. But slowly, they began to understand. Princess Erin attended many of the training sessions, despite her mother's preference that she stay away from military matters. She watched Taeyang work with intense focus, absorbing everything. One evening, she found him alone in one of the palace's observation decks, staring out at the stars. You look worried, she said, sitting beside him. Her skin was soft blue, the color of concern. I am worried, Taeyang admitted. Your mother is putting too much faith in humans. We're not miracle workers. We die just as easily as anyone else. But you fight anyway, Erin said. That's what makes the difference. My people have become comfortable. We rely on our technology and our armor. We've forgotten that sometimes you have to risk everything to win. That's not always a good thing, Taeyang said. Humans are reckless. We get people killed with our stupid bravery. Better than letting fear keep you from acting at all, Erin said. She was quiet for a moment. Taeyang, I want to fight when the Torvins attack. I want to command a fighter squadron. No, Taeyang said immediately. Absolutely not. You're the princess. You need to stay safe. I'm third in line to the throne, Erin corrected. Volthan and his daughter come before me. The Empire will survive if I die, but I can't sit safely in the palace while my people fight. Her skin shifted to determined red. I've been training. I'm a good pilot, better than most of the regular forces. That's not the point, Taeyang argued. Your mother saved my life so I could protect you. How am I supposed to do that if you're flying into battle? By flying with me, Erin said simply. You're my guardian. Guard me there. Taeyang wanted to argue more, but he saw the set of her jaw, the glow of determination in her eyes. She was young, but she was also brave. And he realized with uncomfortable certainty that he couldn't stop her even if he tried. The intelligence reports grew worse over the following days. The Torvan fleet was gathering. They were coming, and soon. Taeyang led a covert operation 3 weeks later. He and Minho, along with 2 Velrosian Special Forces soldiers, infiltrated a Torvan research facility on a remote moon. Their goal was to sabotage the bioweapon production and gather intelligence. It was the most dangerous mission Taeyang had undertaken since leaving Earth's military. The Torvans were formidable fighters, and their facility was heavily guarded. But the team succeeded. They destroyed the main production lab and copied the research data. On the way out, they encountered Admiral Kresh himself. The Torvan commander was massive, nearly 8 feet tall and seemingly carved from living granite. He looked at Taeyang with those glowing orange eyes and laughed. "A human," Kresh said. "The Velrosians are so desperate they're hiring primitives now. How sad." "This primitive just destroyed your weapon," Taeyang replied, holding up the data crystal. Kresh's expression darkened. "Enjoy your small victory. When my fleet arrives, your human tricks won't save the Velrosian Empire. They will fall and we will take everything they have." "We'll see about that," Taeyang said. They barely made it back to their ship alive. When they returned to the capital world, Taeyang presented the stolen data to the Empress. Velrosian scientists immediately began working on countermeasures. That night, Empress Valera summoned Taeyang to her private chambers. It was the first time he had been there. The room was simpler than he expected, filled with holographic images of what he assumed was her family throughout different periods of her life. "You risked your life again," the Empress said. "Not for my daughter this time, but for my empire." "I risked my life for both," Taeyang said. "If the Torvans win, Aaron won't be safe anywhere." The Empress studied him with those glowing eyes that seemed to see through everything. "Kim Taeyang, why do you fight? Truly, this is not your world. These are not your people. You could return to Earth and be safe, yet you stay and risk everything. Why?" Taeyang thought about it carefully before answering. "Because running away when people need help is worse than dying. Because if I have the ability to make a difference and I don't try, then I'm failing the most important part of being human." He met her gaze directly. "And because Aaron is my friend, I protect my friends." The Empress's skin shifted through several colors before settling on warm gold. "When this war comes, many will die. Human and Velrosian both. Victory is not guaranteed."
"Knowing this, will you still stand with us?"
"Yes," Taeyang said without hesitation. The alert came at dawn. Taeyang was in the training hall when every screen in the palace turned red. A synthetic voice repeated the same message in Velrosian and then in English. "Hostile fleet detected. Multiple vectors. All defensive forces to battle stations." Taeyang ran, through corridors that were now familiar, past guards who nodded to him with respect, to the royal hangar where Princess Erin's fighter squadron was already preparing for launch. The hangar was controlled chaos. Velrosian pilots in their crystalline armor were climbing into sleek fighters that looked more like works of art than weapons. Maintenance crews rushed between ships performing last-minute checks. And in the center of it all stood Princess Erin, looking small in her custom-fitted combat armor. "You came," she said when she saw Taeyang. Her skin was steady purple, the color of determination despite fear. "Did you think I wouldn't?" Taeyang asked. He was wearing human combat gear modified with some Velrosian technology. It felt strange but functional. "Your ship is next to mine," Erin said, pointing to a fighter that had been modified for human proportions. "Minho is already in position with the 2nd Squadron. The human advisory team will coordinate from the command ship with my mother." Taeyang climbed into his fighter. The cockpit adjusted to fit him, controls shifting to comfortable positions. Through the canopy, he could see the vast space of the hangar and beyond it, the stars. Somewhere out there, the Torvan Collective was coming with enough firepower to destroy the Velrosian Empire. "All pilots, this is Empress Valera," came the voice through their communication system. "Today we face an enemy that believes we are weak. That believes our reliance on technology has made us soft. They may be right, but they have made one critical error. They believe we fight alone. They did not account for humanity. They did not account for allies who fight not because they must, but because they choose to. Whatever happens today, Know that you are the finest warriors in the galaxy. Make them remember that. The hangar doors opened to space. One by one, the fighters launched. Taeyang had flown simulators during his training, but this was different. This was real. His fighter responded to his thoughts through a neural interface, moving through space like an extension of his body. Beside him, Aaron's fighter kept perfect formation. "Stay close," he told her over their private channel. "I was about to tell you the same thing," Aaron replied. Was that humor in her voice even now? The Velrosian fleet was massive. Hundreds of ships ranging from small fighters to enormous battlecruisers that could level planets. They formed up in defensive positions around the capital world, ready to meet the Torvan advance. Then the enemy arrived. The Torvan fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel in 3 separate groups, just as intelligence had predicted. Their ships were dark and angular, designed to inspire fear. And there were so many of them, all squadrons. "Engage at will," came the order from Fleet Command. The battle began. Space combat was nothing like the movies Taeyang had watched on Earth. It was fast and disorienting. Ships moved in 3 dimensions at incredible speeds. Weapons fire crossed the void in brilliant streams of energy. Explosions bloomed silently in the vacuum. Taeyang's squadron engaged a group of Torvan fighters. His human reflexes and unpredictable flying style caught them off guard. He destroyed 2 enemy ships in the first minute, their hulls rupturing under his fighters' plasma cannons. But the Torvans adapted quickly. They were professional soldiers with excellent training and better ships. The battle became a grinding exchange of fire and maneuver. "Princess Aaron, watch your 6. Taeyang shouted as he saw enemy fighters moving to flank her position. "I see them," Aaron replied calmly. She executed a maneuver that no Velrosian pilot would normally attempt, spinning her ship through a tight barrel roll that brought her weapons to bear on her pursuers. 2 Torvan ships exploded. "Where did you learn that?" Taeyang asked. "From watching you train," Aaron said. "You said humans don't follow the rules. So I decided not to either." Despite their best efforts, the sheer numbers were overwhelming. The Torvans kept coming. For every enemy ship destroyed, 2 more seemed to take its place. Then the bioweapon deployed. Taeyang saw it happen on his tactical display. Dozens of Torvan ships released canisters that exploded into clouds of microscopic particles. The particles spread through space impossibly fast, carried by some technology Taeyang didn't understand. When the clouds reached the Velrosian ships, the effect was immediate and horrible. Ship after ship went dark as their crews died. The particles passed through hulls and armor like they weren't there, killing every Velrosian they touched. "All Velrosian fighters, fall back to the inner defense perimeter," Fleet Command ordered. There was fear in the voice now. "Human fighters, advance and cover their withdrawal." Taeyang understood immediately. The weapon was harmless to humans. Only they could operate safely in the contaminated zones. "Aaron, you need to fall back," Taeyang said urgently. "No," she replied. "My ship is sealed. The weapon can't penetrate my cockpit. I'm staying." "That's not certain," Taeyang argued even as he moved his fighter to engage more enemy ships. "Neither is surviving if we retreat," Aaron said. "I'm staying with you." The battle became desperate. Human fighters, including Minho's squadron, pushed forward into areas the Velrosians couldn't enter. They were outnumbered 10 to 1, but they had one advantage. They were fighting for something personal. These were their friends dying, their allies, their chosen family. Humans fought with a ferocity that shocked the Torvans. They took risks no sane pilot would take. They used maneuvers that violated every rule of engagement, and it worked. But losses were mounting on both sides. Multiple enemy ships targeting the command cruiser came a warning over the general channel. "They're going after the Empress." Taeyang looked at his tactical display. A group of Torvan assault ships had broken through the defensive line and were approaching the massive command vessel where Empress Valera coordinated the defense. "All available fighters, protect the command ship," Fleet Command ordered. Taeyang changed course immediately. Beside him, Aaron did the same. They accelerated to maximum speed, racing to intercept the enemy ships. They weren't going to make it in time. Then Princess Aaron did something impossible. She disengaged her fighter's safety limiters and pushed her engines past their maximum rated output. Her ship shot forward like a missile, leaving Taeyang behind. "Aaron, what are you doing?" Taeyang shouted. "Your ship will tear itself apart." "Maybe," Aaron replied. "But I'll reach them first." She did reach them first. Her ship screamed into the middle of the enemy formation, and opened fire with everything she had. 3 Torvan ships exploded immediately. The others broke formation, startled by the sudden attack, but there were too many. They surrounded her ship. Weapons charging, Taeyang arrived with 5 other human fighters. Together they tore into the Torvan ships with desperate fury. The fight was chaotic and vicious. Ships exploded, debris filled the space, and somewhere in the middle of it Aren's fighter took a direct hit. No. Taeyang screamed as he saw her ship spin out of control, trailing atmosphere and debris. He forgot about the battle, forgot about tactics, forgot about everything except reaching her. His fighter closed the distance in seconds and he matched her spin, locking his ship to hers with magnetic clamps. "Aren, respond," he said urgently.
Aren, I'm here, came her weak reply.
"Ship's dead. Life support failing. Hull breach in the cockpit." "Hold on," Taeyang said. "I'm getting you out." He couldn't dock with her damaged ship normally, so he did something no pilot manual would recommend. He extended his ship's emergency airlock and manually burned through her cockpit canopy with his fighter's cutting laser. The process took 30 seconds that felt like hours. Around them, the battle continued. Minho and the other human fighters protected them, keeping the enemy at bay. Finally, the canopy breached. Taeyang activated his suit's magnetic boots and crossed the gap between ships in the vacuum. He found Aren strapped into her seat, her armor cracked and leaking air. Her skin was flickering weakly between colors. He pulled her free and carried her back to his ship. Getting her through the airlock while Torvan ships fired at them was the hardest thing he had ever done. But he managed it. Once inside, he saw how badly she was hurt. The weapon had somehow penetrated her armor. She was dying. "Stay with me," Taeyang said, activating his ship's emergency medical system.
"Don't you dare die on me!
"Not to," Aren whispered. "Sorry." "Don't apologize," Taeyang said. "Just breathe. Keep breathing." His fighter's computer was counting down to catastrophic failure. He had taken too much damage. Life support was failing. Engines were offline. They were drifting in the middle of a battle with no power and no way to escape. Then something extraordinary happened. Human reinforcements arrived. Not just a few ships. Hundreds of them. Earth had sent its entire defensive fleet, every military vessel that could make the journey. They dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation and immediately engaged the Torvans. "This is Admiral Chen of Earth's United Defense Force," came a voice over all channels. "We're here to help. Sorry we're late, the tide of battle turned." The human ships used tactics the Torvans had never encountered. They were smaller and less advanced than either Velrosian or Torvan vessels. But they fought with creativity and unpredict. 2 months after the battle, Taeyang stood in the palace's medical wing for what he hoped would be the last time. The doctors said Princess Aren was fully recovered now. The experimental treatments had worked. The damage to her crystalline internal structures had been repaired. He waited outside her recovery room, feeling nervous in a way he hadn't felt since the first day he arrived at the palace. So much had changed since then. The war was over. The Torvan Collective had sued for peace after Admiral Kresh's capture. Earth and the Velrosian Empire had signed formal alliance treaties, and Taeyang himself had changed more than he could have imagined. The door opened and Aren walked out under her own power. Her skin was healthy purple-blue, shifting with pleased colors when she saw him. She looked strong, alive, safe. "Finally," she said. "They wouldn't let me leave until they ran every test 3 times. "I'm fine, Taeyang. You can stop worrying." "I'll worry less when you promise to never fly a fighter into combat again," Taeyang said. "I can't promise that," Aren replied cheerfully. "But I can promise to be more careful next time." They walked together through the palace corridors. The place had become truly familiar now. Taeyang no longer got lost. The shifting walls and appearing doors made sense to him. It felt in a strange way like home. The human presence on the Velrosian homeworld had expanded dramatically. An entire district of the capital city now housed Earth's embassy and cultural center. Humans and Velrosians walked the streets together, shopping in mixed markets, eating in fusion restaurants that combined cuisines from both worlds. Taeyang and Aren stopped at one such restaurant for lunch. Li Hana joined them, along with Cho Minho, who had been promoted to training coordinator for joint human Velrosian military operations. "Have you heard?" Hana said excitedly as they ate. "Earth is sending its first group of civilian colonists next month. 1,000 families who want to settle here and help build the alliance." And 3 Velrosian ships left for Earth last week carrying students and scholars. Aaron added, "My mother says this is just the beginning. She wants to see complete integration within a generation." "That's ambitious," Minho said. "But after seeing humans and Velrosians fight together, I believe anything is possible." After lunch, Empress Valera summoned Taeyang to the throne room. It was a formal audience, and the room was filled with Velrosian nobility and human dignitaries. Ambassador Park stood near the throne, along with Lady Seraph and Prince Volthan. Volthan had changed over the months. He no longer looked at Taeyang with dismissal. During the battle, he had watched human fighters save Velrosian lives again and again. It had shifted something in his perspective. "Kim Taeyang," the Empress said formally. "Approach." Taeyang walked to the base of the throne and bowed respectfully. His new dress uniform, a blend of human and Velrosian styles, felt strange but right. "6 months ago you saved my daughter's life," the Empress said. "In doing so, you changed the course of history. You showed my people that strength comes in many forms, that courage has no species requirement, that true honor transcends culture." She stood and descended from her throne. "You have saved my daughter twice now. You have fought for my empire as if it were your own. You have risked everything not for reward or glory, but simply because it was right." She removed something from her armor, a crystal pendant that glowed with internal light. "This is the Starfire medal, the highest honor our empire can bestow. It has been awarded only twice in our history. You are the 3rd recipient and the first non-Velrosian." The Empress placed the pendant around Taeyang's neck. The crystal was warm against his chest, pulsing gently in rhythm with his heartbeat. "But this is not all," the Empress continued. "I am officially adopting you into the royal house of Velrosia. You will bear the title of Honored Blade of the Throne, a position created specifically for you. You will have all the rights and privileges of nobility, and you will be recognized as family." Taeyang was speechless. He had expected gratitude, maybe a commendation, but this was beyond anything he could have imagined. "Your Majesty," he managed to say, "I don't know if I'm worthy of such honor." "You are worthy because you don't seek it," the Empress said. "Because you act not for recognition but because you cannot do otherwise. That is the truest form of honor." Princess Erin stepped forward from where she had been standing with the other royals. Her skin was brilliant gold, the color of pure joy. "Welcome to the family, brother," she said with a smile. The formal ceremony ended, but Taeyang was immediately surrounded by people offering congratulations. Human and Velrosian both. He saw Ji-hyun, the military strategist, giving him an approving nod. He saw Velrosian guards he had trained with, saluting him with genuine respect. He saw Ambassador Park looking proud. Later that evening, after the celebration had died down, Taeyang found himself on the same observation deck where he and Aaron had talked so many times before. She found him there, as he somehow knew she would. "How does it feel?" she asked, standing beside him. "Being nobility? Strange," Taeyang admitted. "I'm just a soldier. I don't know how to be anything else." "You're not just a soldier," Aaron said. "You're my guardian, my friend, and now officially my family." She was quiet for a moment. "I was so scared when I saw your ship get hit during the battle. I thought I was going to lose you." "I'm harder to kill than I look," Taeyang said with a slight smile. "Don't joke about that," Aaron said seriously. Her skin had shifted to worried blue. "Promise me you'll be careful. Promise me you won't sacrifice yourself unnecessarily." "I can't promise that," Taeyang said honestly. "If you're in danger, I'll always choose to protect you. That's who I am." "I know," Aaron said softly. "That's what terrifies me." They stood in comfortable silence, watching ships move through the space around the capital world. Human and Velrosian vessels flying together in peaceful traffic. "Do you ever regret staying?" Aaron asked. "Do you miss Earth?" Taeyang thought about it. He did miss some things. Korean food that actually tasted like home, rain, the weight of normal gravity, his sister's laugh. But then he looked at Aaron, at the empire of stars spread out before them, at the future they were building together. "No," he said. "I found something here that I never had on Earth. Purpose, family, a place where I actually make a difference." "You made a difference before you came here," Aaron said. "You just didn't know it. People like you, Taeyang, you change the universe just by existing in it, by refusing to look away when others need help, by being brave when it would be easier to be afraid." A notification appeared on Taeyang's communication device. Empress Valera was requesting his presence. Aaron received the same notification. They found the Empress in her private office reviewing holographic documents. She looked up when they entered and dismissed the displays with a wave of her hand. "I wanted to speak with both of you privately," she said. "The alliance between our peoples is strong, but it is new. There will be challenges ahead. Cultural misunderstandings, political disagreements, forces that want to see us divided again." "Why are you telling us this?" Aaron asked. "Because you two represent the best of what our alliance can be," the Empress said. "A human who loves my daughter enough to die for her. A Velrosian who has learned to see beyond her own species. You are proof that we are stronger together." She pulled up a new holographic display. It showed construction plans for a massive station at the border between Velrosian and human space. "We are building a joint station," the Empress explained. "A place where our peoples can live, work, and learn together. I want you both to oversee its development. Aaron, you will represent Velrosia. Taeyang, you will represent Earth. Together you will show the galaxy what is possible when different species choose cooperation over conflict." It was an enormous responsibility, but looking at Aaron's excited expression, at the Empress's confident eyes, Taeyang felt ready for it. "We'll do it," he said. The following weeks passed in a blur of planning and preparation. The joint station project was ambitious, requiring cooperation between dozens of species and governments. But slowly it began to take shape. On the day before Taeyang and Aaron were scheduled to travel to the construction site, he found himself back in the palace's eastern garden, where he had first shared breakfast with Aaron months ago. The flowers were blooming, their alien scents filling the air. He thought about the path that had brought him here. A plasma blast on a space station floor. A choice made in a fraction of a second. A decision to throw himself in front of danger because someone needed help. That one choice had changed everything, not just for him, but for billions of people across two civilizations. "There you are," Aaron's voice came from behind him. "I've been looking everywhere. We're supposed to review the station blueprints one more time before we leave." "I know," Taeyang said. "I just wanted a moment to think." "About what?" "About how strange life is," Taeyang said. 6 months ago I was nobody. Just a security contractor doing a job. Now I'm an adopted member of a royal family, helping build a space station that will house millions of people." "You were never nobody,"